never tame. Mets Postgame show brings the flame.
What is up, New York Mets fans? Welcome back to the New York Mets post-game show. I'm your host, CP, and my co-host, Rob, is not here because he got called into work late, unfortunately, but we are holding it down here on this lovely evening of March 31st, right before the calendar hits the month of April. It is a fantastic and electric, a much needed offensive performance in a blowout victory for our New York Mets. Francisco Lindor did not start this game if you paid attention to our pregame stream, and he was able to enjoy the full night off as the offense finally comes alive and explodes for 4 total home runs in this game. Before we fully get into the breakdown of this game, talking about the X's and O's, talking about the better at-bats that the New York Mets posted, please do, as always, smash those thumbs up buttons on this stream. Subscribe to the channel if you want more post-game coverage all 2025 season long. And as always, comment your thoughts and opinions in the live chat section. If you are watching this over on X, come over to YouTube, vote in the live chat poll. Let's have a discussion. Got so many people in the chat right now. I appreciate the support. Rob and I definitely always appreciate the support. We got Explosive, Cindy, D, Cope, Ken, everybody, Don, Brad, everybody. And for the first time, I know that this is the second win of this young season. The Mets improved to 2-2 in the win-loss column. But if you paid attention to the post-game streams that Rob and I did last season, especially in that deep playoff run, spam those W's, Mets fans. Spam those W's. Let's go. It's a Mets victory. Oh, it feels so good to have double-digit hits in the hit column. 10-4 is your final score, and we have a lot to talk about. Let's take a look at the box score as we get right into it, honestly. And we have to talk about David Peterson, who made his season debut. The Mets and Carlos Mendoza were shifting the rotation around in a very particular manner, especially in that opening series in Houston. They decided to go with a combination of Clay Holmes, Tyler McGill, and Griffin Canning, and we're opting to reserve what we think is the better 2 pitchers in this rotation, and Kodai Senga and David Peterson in this Marlins series. And David Peterson was nothing short of fantastic, exceeded my expectations in terms of what we had for him in the pregame show. And honestly, this was kind of, I wouldn't say he exceeded expectations. This was pretty much on par with what I thought he should be posting. 6 innings pitched for David Peterson. He is the first New York Mets pitcher this season to go past that 5th inning mark. 89 total pitches. Again, Mendoza seems to be comfortable between 85 to 89 pitches for the starters for the New York Mets the first time through the rotation. 2 earned runs coming off of 2 solo home runs off of David Peterson from that Marlins lineup. At first, it was Otto Lopez with that opposite field home run in the very first inning. And then, honestly, when I saw that happen, I was like, oh boy, here we go again. But he settled down and he was absolutely in a groove. Some command issues with those 3 walks. But again, you're never going to complain with this box score, with this output. And he had the put away stuff going early and often with 9 strikeouts. And I believe he had 5 strikeouts through his very first time in this order. And again, David Peterson is a guy that I am so intrigued to see how he is going to solidify himself into this Mets rotation. Well, he already has, right? But what can his ceiling really be for this rotation, especially with the outlook of it when Manaea and Montas get back? We all know where he left off last season. David Peterson was nothing short of brilliant. I fully expect him to make that push and potentially make that surge into being a potential ace of this rotation, at least until we get up into the trade deadline and maybe David Stearns brings in a true ace via trade. But again, David Peterson is set for a fantastic season. And again, he was just absolutely magnificent for the New York Mets down the stretch last season. For those of you all who were paying attention to the pregame stream, talking about some of the pitch distributions that we were expecting, and I was expecting out of David Peterson in this outing. He was, as per usual, dominant with his sinker, the two-seam fastball. He threw that 28 times. The four-seam fastball followed thereafter at 21 times, and he threw his changeup. No surprise there, as that is one of his better put-away pitches, 17 different times, and he produces a fantastic outing. And I know that we're not going to talk about the bullpen much because, again, when the bullpen came in, when Huascar Brazaban came in to relieve David Peterson in this game, it was what, 10-2 at that point. And Danny Young did kind of extend this ball game in the ninth inning, and we're not going to harp on it a little bit too much. But the Mets bullpen, up until Danny Young came in the ninth inning, they had a scoreless streak going. And that is just a testament to how fantastic this bullpen has looked early on. Whether the Mets starters, are going to give them length or not. You talk about a Clay Holmes outing that was 4 2/3 innings. You talk about Tyler McGill, who's able to get into the fifth inning. Same thing with Griffin Canning. It doesn't really matter how far these starting pitchers go. Of course, we would all love to see the starters go into the sixth inning like David Peterson did today. But this bullpen is definitely up to the task. And a guy like Huascar Brazaban, who posted 2 scoreless innings in this ball game, I said at the beginning of the season, he was a fringe roster guy. I wasn't expecting him to make it. And then we get the Paul Blackburn injury news. And he ends up being, either the 25th or 26th guy on this roster. And he has been brilliant over what seems to be about, 3 2/3 or 4 innings pitched, something like that, posting scoreless innings in the very first game, the opener, and also in this ball game today. Huascar Brazaban has electric stuff. Gary, Keith, and Ron were talking about that on the broadcast, and we see why. When he knows where these pitches are going, when he has command of his full arsenal, the fastball electricity and life is awesome. 97, 98, sometimes 99 if he rears back. And also the movement on the off speed. It's a very, very imposing presence on the mound for opposing hitters. So I wanted to make sure that we give props, necessary props, to Huascar Brazaban so far early this season. The Mets called his number to make the initial roster, and he has performed up to expectations of what the Mets front office and Carlos Mendoza have set out for him. So again, shout out to everybody in the chat. Keep dropping those comments in the live chat. I'm going to put up some comments here. Give me your thoughts and opinions. Are we relieved? Are we relieved, Mets fans? It was almost like Panic City for some people, right? It's inevitable. This Mets fan base is going to panic at times. Sometimes you'll catch me panicking a little bit, although that won't probably happen until June or July. But the first series is not indicative of anything. Just like today's offensive, barrage is also not indicative of what's to come either. The Mets still have an uphill battle to climb in terms of gaining that consistency, but this is a proper step in the right direction for the offense. 4 total home runs. 4. That is absolutely tremendous. And it all started with Starling Marte in that third inning. Was very aggressive early on in the count. Second pitch of that at bat, I believe, golfs it out, tie ball game. And Marte, everybody was questioning. Rob, myself, a lot of Mets fans over on Twitter and all social media in the pregame were questioning. Lindor's out. We know that he's available off the bench. Why isn't Jesse Winker in the lineup with the righty Cal Quantrill on the mound? Why is it Starling Marte? And more importantly, even if he's in the lineup, why is he batting leadoff? Marte had himself a pretty good game, and he got things going, which is exactly what a great leadoff hitter does. And he also does, unfortunately, get plunked twice, one of which was very scary, up and in, near the helmet/neck area. Never like to see that. And it just seems like Marte is like a hit-by-pitch magnet. I have no idea why. But ever since he became a New York Met, it just seems like the ball always finds him and is glued to him. He's like magnetic. So shout out to Starling Marte. But again, listen, 11 total hits for the New York Mets. Anytime you are in double digits in that column is a fantastic sign. And the Mets went in there and took care of business. Look at this. This is beautiful. I miss this. I miss the spamming of the W's. Shout out Cindy spamming the W's. Don spamming the W's. Carlos spamming the W's. Cope spamming the W's. Darren spamming the W's. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. That's what we do on these post games. We spam those W's, ladies and gentlemen. Got a Phillies fan, Jane, in the chat as well, but I love the Mets over the Stankies. Shout out to Jane. Hopefully enjoyed the Phillies win earlier today over the Colorado Rockies. Listen, this is a refreshing win. This is something that this team 100% needed. What felt like a very winnable series in Houston ended up being, 1-2 in favor of the Houston Astros. And the offense was lifeless. And even the broadcast was talking about how lethargic the offense looked. There were no shows on Saturday offensively outside of Juan Soto, but they get the job done and they put on a hit parade. Let's take a look at the box score one more time because this is a thing of beauty. This is a thing of beauty. From Marte all the way down, everybody in the Mets lineup collected a hit. Everybody. And I was a little bit worried, to be honest with you. We'll revisit this box score here in just a second. But after the home run in the first inning, the bottom of the first, off of Otto Lopez's bat to make it 1-0 Marlins, I was a little bit intrigued with how the Mets were going to respond. And, it was a great at-bat by Mark Vientos in the top of the second inning, a leadoff double. And I'm like, okay, listen, runner in scoring position, nobody out. What's the one thing that I stated in the postgame in Game 3 versus the Houston Astros, and I stated in the pregame today? Making productive outs and getting runners over if the offense is struggling to get that big hit. Well, Luis Torrens comes up. He's batting in the sixth spot today. We'll get into him here in just a second. He comes up and grounds out to the shortstop. Vientos can't move over to third base. And then the snowball effect, right? Brett Beatty makes an out. And all of a sudden, what was man on second with nobody out, back-to-back outs, unproductive outs, and Vientos is still standing on second base. And I was just like, listen, I've seen this before. I think Luis Angel Acuna at that point made the final out, and the Mets couldn't capitalize until Starling Marte came up in the next inning, right, in the top of the third, and equalized it with a solo home run. But in that situation, that's what I'm talking about. If that's if you are looking for a prime example of what I'm talking about in terms of productive outs when the offense is struggling, that is it. Vientos gets on base, an extra base hit, no less. You got to move him over. And that's about the only, critique that I have about this game is in that instance of the ball game, that runner needed to be moved over and he needed to be driven in. But it ended up not mattering. It ended up not mattering in this one because of this box score right here. Everybody was in on the action. And shout out to Luis Angel Acuna as well, by the way. The Mets put up 7 runs in the in the fifth inning, excuse me. 7 runs in the fifth inning, and it was all started by Luis Angel Acuna. A great play by a third baseman in the hole, making the diving stop, but he was never throwing out Luis Angel Acuna with that speed. And that's what we talk about with the speed of this team, right? Up and down the lineup. I mean, you can argue Marte still has a little bit of speed on the base paths. Luis Angel Acuna for sure. Jose Siri for damn sure. And those two guys got it done to start basically that Mets rally, not the Mets rally, but to get the Mets going in that fifth inning. It was all started by Luis Angel Acuna, infield hit. And Jose Siri comes up and drills an opposite field double to put the Mets ahead. And that's something that I also want to point out with this game. How many opposite field hits did the Mets have? It was a lot. It was a lot. And when Mets hitters are deciding to go to the opposite field, yes, it's probably easier to pull a home run, statistically. I understand that. But not trying to do too much and taking the ball where it's pitched, the results will thereafter follow. And it did up and down the lineup. Jose Siri with the RBI double. Brett Beatty collects his first hit of the season, which is an extra base hit opposite field for a double. Oh, and by the way, that guy Polar Bear, the guy who just signed an extension for 2 years with an opt-out, that's trying to go back out onto the market and get a tremendous bag that he missed out on this past offseason. Yeah, he hits a grand slam. And guess where it went? Opposite field. Opposite field. On a 3-2 pitch, no less. And that was set up because Pete Alonso in his at-bats, objectively, has he had the most success in terms of the end result? No. Has he walked a plethora of times early this season? Yes, which is a great sign when he's being selective. Because eventually, when he's selective and he's able to lay off of that down-and-out breaking ball that was his kryptonite last season, he gets into advantageous counts, especially with the bases loaded or runners on first and second. Those are advantageous situations for guys in the middle of your lineup. And so he worked the count to 3-2. The pitcher knew that he had nowhere to put Pete. He didn't want to walk the bases loaded. And he throws him a nice, decently located, I would say, but, it was still going to be a strike 100% on the outer third of the plate. Fastball. And Pete Alonso, not trying to do too much, understanding that in spring training, he was finding a lot of success to the opposite field. If you go back and rewatch and reanalyze, my post-game breakdowns and the spring training tape, not trying to do too much because Pete Alonso's like that. He's the polar bear for a reason. He's got all fields power. So does Juan Soto. So does Mark Vientos. The Mets have multiple guys in this lineup that can hit to all fields and put the ball over the fence to every part of the ballpark. And so taking advantage of that and utilizing that is going to be, it's going to create a situation where it gives the Mets the most consistent success over this entire season. So salute to the polar bear. I know everybody was waiting for that big hit from him. Shout out to Juan Soto also getting things done, not trying to do too much. I believe he also worked the count, I believe, to 3-2 as well, right before that grand slam, right in front of Pete Alonso. You saw maybe he was trying to do a little bit too much in Houston with the game on the line in the last inning off of Josh Hader, and it didn't bode well for him. This is like the learning experience and just the experience in general that the Mets are going to benefit from these veterans, especially Juan Soto, who is definitely a veteran at only the age of 26 years old right now because he has playoff experience. He has World Series experience, and he is top to bottom, all around. Some could argue the best hitter in this league. I know Ohtani's good. I know Judge is good. He's definitely top 3, but some could argue he's the best hitter in this league. And it's for that very reason, because in order for him to benefit his team, he doesn't need to get a base hit. His eye is so good at the plate, and at this point, he understands that he can trust, or he should trust, the guys behind him to get the job done. And they got the job done tonight in a big way. So that was set up by great at-bats prior to Pete Alonso, one being Juan Soto. I love it. When this offense is clicking on all cylinders, I absolutely love it. Let me get into some of the comments here before we continue on with the offense because, Luis Torrens got in on the home run action. Carson is wondering why David Peterson is pointing at him. Carson, by the way, if you all don't know, is David Peterson's greatest supporter. We'll just say that. So you see this line, Carson, that David Peterson just posted? That's for you, buddy. He's pointing right at you. Shout out to Carson. Mets Weekly. Go subscribe to them over on YouTube. They do a great job. James saying, yes, Alonso, great game. Big home run for Marte to get it started, 100%. Darren is saying that, the same thing that I've been saying this whole entire season so far, only 4 games in. I said whole entire season as if we're not only 4 games in, but we are. Productive outs. You don't have to get a hit every time. I'm going to keep stressing the importance of this because it's absolutely true. You don't have to get a base hit every time to be productive and beneficial to your team. You watch Juan Soto and what he does, you see that almost every single day. Every single day. Ken is saying Torrens has been solid. Luis Torrens has been more than solid, in my opinion. And I'm not even talking about with the bat, I'm talking about his presence behind the plate. And he is taking a beating back there, by the way, from spring training, all the way up until now in these regular season games. He's taking a beating back there. A lot of foul tips. I see it, see him grimacing a lot back there. The ball is finding him, and he is a ball magnet as well behind the plate, just like Marte is up at the plate. So shout out to Luis Torrens. That home run is something you don't see every day. That home run, the 2-run home run to dead center field, is something you do not see every day. Hill, the center fielder, I believe, is his name. Honestly, if he caught that ball, I was going to be very impressed. That would have been a spectacular catch. But that ball was smoked by Luis Torrens. He hit it right on the nose. Dead center. It was moving quickly. And all the center fielder could do was basically last ditch effort, just put his arm up in hopes he caught it. But it actually deflected off of his glove and over the fence for a 2-run home run. I don't know why they reviewed it. I think Keith said it in the booth. He was like, the indicator that it's a home run is if you don't see the ball anymore. And that's absolutely correct. So I'm not sure why they reviewed it, but who cares? 2-run home run for Luis Torrens. He goes 2 for 4. And again, another guy that loves to utilize the opposite field. I believe he had another opposite field hit tonight. We saw him doing that a lot in spring training. Let's count that. Of the Mets' 11 hits, how many were to the opposite field? Brett Beatty's 1. I don't have it in front of me, so someone correct me if I'm wrong while I count it. I'm going to try to at least. Brett Beatty's 1. Luis Torrens. Pete Alonso. Oh boy, now I am struggling to think of who also hit. Let's look at the box score. Maybe it might help me out in my calculations. Chat, help me out as well. Who else? Siri, that's 4. Alonso's other hit was up the middle, I believe. Soto's was pull side. Marte was pull for the home run. Yeah, so I think 4 of the 11 hits that the Mets got was to the opposite field. That's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. I'll take that all day long. I'll take that all day long. Yeah, listen, I don't know what Danny Young was doing up there. He got 2 quick outs with what, 4 to 5 pitches, and he folded after that. 2 runs come in the 9th inning, the bottom of the 9th inning. The Mets bullpen scoreless streak ends. Unnecessary, too. I mean, walks in between. He didn't look good. He didn't look good. But at this point, and at that point, it was 10-2. The fact that Edwin Diaz even had to stand up in the bullpen is crazy. I'm glad that he got the final out. And he did, I will say, he did do pretty well in Houston. I wish we would have saw him get in the 3rd game in Houston against the lefty. Because, again, you take a look at the splits from 2024. The numbers are indicative. I'm pretty sure if I look at Baseball Reference that he is better and tougher on lefties than he is righties. So that was the perfect situation for him. But yeah, listen, I'm just glad that Edwin Diaz didn't get to a point where Edwin Diaz needed to start throwing because that's the last thing that anybody needed in that situation. Daniel, you're 100% correct here. 100%. Dan says, in my opinion, Soto is going to help Pete a lot this year. Yes, 100%. Soto's going to help a lot of people in that lineup. He's going to he's going to help whoever is hitting directly before him, right? And he's going to get on base to give Pete Alonso, Mark Vientos, Brandon Nimmo all the opportunities in the world at RBIs. So you're 100% correct. Pete Alonso, when it's all said and done this year, should be approaching his career high in RBIs. And I know RBIs aren't the end all be all. I know that they're kind of a flawed statistic that a lot of people like to look at. Sometimes I like to look at that. If you're hitting in the middle of the order, 3-4 for the New York Mets with the guys in front of you, there's going to be a lot of traffic on the bases. You should be getting the job done, and it should be reflective in your RBIs totals at some point to an extent. Yeah, Ray saying he's never seen that with the ball bouncing over the wall. I don't think I've actually ever seen it as well in an MLB game. I don't think I've ever seen that as well. So that was a peculiar type of home run. And even Luis Torrens is like, he thought that the center fielder caught it. That would have been a crazy play, though. Soto did get the first hit tonight. It was pulled ground ball that was smoked, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Luis Angel Acuna's hit was 104 miles per hour off of his bat, maybe 105 miles per hour. So that ball was also smoked on his infield single that the third baseman made a hell of a play on. Mets torpedo bat power. I don't think the Mets were using the torpedo bat tonight. I don't think a single Met was using the torpedo bat. Francisco Lindor used it in the opening series. He was kind of flirting around with it in spring training, decided to use it, went 0 for 11. But I don't think any other New York Met that has been confirmed that at least I've seen has used the torpedo bat. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But we already gave our opinions on the torpedo bat earlier in the pregame. I don't think it matters that much, to be honest. I think it's overblown. I can't argue with this one. I can't argue with this one. That's what I'm saying. We'll see what the Yankees do down the stretch of the season going into the playoffs. We'll see who shows up versus who doesn't. But at this point in time, given the history, this is a factually correct statement from Carson. Salute to Dolo. Just reading the chat here. Just reading the chat. I appreciate it. Yes, Darren. Salute to you for the super chat. But this is such a great point. Salute to Darren, by the way, longtime subscriber. I definitely appreciate that. The super chat means a lot. I appreciate you all that donate. I do this for you guys' enjoyment, but I definitely appreciate that. But this is a great point because, David Peterson was in a little bit of a jam. He's got some traffic on the bases earlier on in the game. And it was first and third, one out, I believe. My mind is slipping on what inning it was, but I have to believe it was either bottom two or bottom three. I think it was bottom three because the Mets had just tied it up. And I was like, David Peterson, please don't give the lead right back up. But first and third, one out. And by the way, David Peterson also, early on in the game, got necessary outs. I believe it was also first and third, one out, got a huge strikeout, ended the inning, the very next batter. And then this play that Darren is talking about right here, with Pete Alonso starting a double play. Listen, I thought Pete Alonso, when he was going to get that ground ball, I have to rewatch the play, but I thought that he was going to step on first base first and then throw it over to second. I honestly would have preferred if he did that before I actually knew what the end result was going to be. But what was the one thing that we talked about with Pete Alonso's defense last season that was absolutely putrid? It was abysmal. It was his throws to second base, especially the ones that he fielded evenly with his shoulders, and he needed to do a direct 180 to line himself up and kind of shuffle and pivot his feet to get that a strong throw over to second base. And how many times have we seen he just absolutely yanked it last season? Well, this was a great throw by Pete Alonso. And I'm not sure if he's been overly practicing that. I hope that he did in the offseason and in spring training, because if he did, then it paid dividends. A great turn and what was a much-needed double play for David Peterson at that time. Right over to Luis Angel Acuna. Luis Angel Acuna, smooth transfer, getting the start at shortstop, with Francisco Lindor taking the night off. And the rest was history. Great double play. Great point as well, Darren. I appreciate you. Gotta show Marte love. Gotta show Marte love. Listen, I've been a little bit of a critic when it comes to Starling Marte and the trajectory that the Mets were going down in terms of whether they were trying to trade him, whether they were going to trade him or keep him on the roster. But Starling Marte was, he was, the Kickstarter today, to be honest with you. It's like it felt like when Starling Marte put that ball over the fence, the Mets offense is like, oh, we do know how to score runs. We do know how to hit home runs. We should be, at the end of the day, a top 3 offense in the entire league. Let's start acting like it. So Starling Marte might have knocked some sense into the rest of the lineup. Oh yeah, that's right. Uh, I've seen the off the glove home run many times, even off of a head. Jose Canseco's head. That's funny. No idea who hit the ball. Congrats to Lindor as well, and his wife Katya. Congrats to the Lindors. Absolutely. Love these comments. I love these comments. Keep them coming. Keep them rolling. Keep them rolling. Shout out to Cope. Rosban looks fantastic. Fantastic. I agree. I agree, JB. Let's see here. But yeah, guys, this was like a much needed game. You see how calm I am on the post game? You see how calm I am? When I'm talking about Luis Torrens failing to move a runner over in the second inning as my only critical point outside of Danny Young in this game, then they did something right. This game went right. So as always, friendly reminder as we're 33 minutes into this post-game stream, please hit those thumbs up buttons. Subscribe for more Mets content on this channel, whether it's post-game streams, whether it's pre-game streams. If this is your first time checking out the stream, whether it's live or on the replay, welcome. Videos in between, I'll be posting videos when I can, schedule permitting, because these streams honestly do take up a lot of my time. Almost 2 every day on game days. I'll try to get videos out when I can. But smash those thumbs up buttons and subscribe as well. Trying to get to the channel over to 2.4K subscribers at some point this season. And if you want to give me a follow on social media, on X and Instagram, even TikTok, if you got a TikTok, at True Mets Talk is where you can find me. But yeah, listen, just admire this box score. Just admire it. From David Peterson to Starling Marte all the way down. I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I'm not pointing something out that was obviously needed to be talked about in this game. But maybe I've covered all of the bases. Maybe I did. Talked about Oscar Brazaban. Now I'm trying to relive this game because I was kind of like daydreaming of how much offense we were getting. Went over the X's and O's of David Peterson. Heavy sinker. Utilized the changeup for some out pitches. Alonso grand slam. Oh, Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo, up until he hit the 2-run, or was it a 2-run home run? I think it was a 2-run home run. Up until that point, he was the only New York Met that was hitless. And we were having a discussion on the pregame between Rob and myself about this potentially being or would have been the perfect game to bat Nimmo leadoff to see how he adjusts with Lindor taking the night off, or at least being available off the bench. And, when he came up to bat, the broadcaster's like, Nimmo just been struggling. They were talking about Nimmo's early struggles. And then right on cue, he hits a home run. Center field, right center, kind of borderline in between there. But shout out to Brandon Nimmo, finally getting on the board. I believe that was his first hit of this season so far. Does it in a big way. Contributes to the offense. Couple RBIs as well. I believe it was a hanging slider over the middle of the plate. Low, right at the knees. Perfect for a lefty to just golf it out of there. There's a shot. So shout out to Brandon Nimmo because Brandon Nimmo, when we're talking about the top five of this offense, when this team is fully healthy, right? They are a powerhouse, or at least they should be. And Brandon Nimmo has a lot of contributions, and should have a lot of contributions in that statement. And so I know that he had a very down season last season. I know that a lot of people are still a little bit uneasy about seeing him bat in the middle of the lineup, whether it's in the 4 spot or the 5 spot. We're seeing a little bit of a different approach from Brandon Nimmo. I guess in comparison to the way that he was approaching his at-bats from the leadoff spot a couple of seasons ago. So I'm curious to continue to watch Brandon Nimmo in his at-bats. Hopefully the home run that he hit tonight is a kickstarter for him. And he starts to contribute on an everyday basis and gains more confidence with runners in scoring position inevitably when he comes up to bat. I like that swing from Brandon Nimmo. I actually like the swing in Houston. The bases loaded, 2 outs, first pitch swing. I like the swing. The result wasn't there, but I like the swing. And so I just wanted to give a quick shout out as well to Brandon Nimmo. I can't believe I almost forgot. The other and the last Mets home run was Brandon Nimmo. So really, really good to see that. And I want to see continued success from Brandon Nimmo because, I don't doubt anybody in the top 5 of this lineup. You can maybe even extend that to the top 6 of this lineup, depending on who's batting 6. I like the bottom of this lineup as well. I do. But I would have to agree with Rob, and he has stated this all the time, even going back to last season when the bottom of the lineup was winning the Mets ball games early in the season, April and May time. This lineup and the power and the star power that it has at the top, it shouldn't need to rely on the bottom of the order to win ball games, right? The bottom of the order should just be a supplemental piece, just doing their job, getting on base any way they can to get back to the top of the lineup and get those guys more at bats. But good to see Brandon Nimmo out there and getting a hit. And not only was it his first hit of the season, first home run of the season as well. Darren is saying with another super chat, $4.99. Appreciate you, Darren, so much. Imagine ninth inning without Acuna backing up Vientos. Yes. Also a great point. Darren, you are on fire in this post-game stream, dude. You are on fire because this is going to lead me to the other backup that was evident earlier on in the game on a blooper. And this is heads up play. Like infielders know this. If you played infield in your career, in your lifetime, in your playing career, you got to back up. Everybody in the diamond really should be backing each other up. But for infielders, in multiple situations, it's essential. So 100%. And also, Jose Siri backing up Juan Soto. That Soto was coming in trying to make a shoestring grab, failed to do so. And Jose Siri was right there backing him up. And that Marlins ground, that grass out there, I don't know. Does somebody know if they actually play on turf in the outfield or is it regular grass? Could be Bermuda grass. But anyways, it looks hard. So the ball bounces a lot over there in the outfield. So if that gets by Jose Siri, or if that did get by Juan Soto, and if Jose Siri wasn't there backing up, the Marlins get an additional run. But since Jose Siri was there, he barehanded the ball and got it back into the infield and kept the runner in that at third base, which is huge. Stuff like that goes unnoticed. I noticed it, but I wasn't going to talk about it until Darren brought it up. Great minds think alike. 100% Darren. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And those are IQ baseball plays. Ladies and gentlemen, those are IQ baseball plays that Acuna is making. That Jose Siri was brought in here to make. When you're talking about guys that are phenomenal defensively. We're not just talking about footwork. We're not just talking about range and arm strength. We're talking about baseball IQ defensively. And that is being in the game 100%, not losing focus, and backing up your teammates when they fail to make a play or whatever have you. And that's why Jose Siri was brought in here, let alone the RBI double. Backing up Juan Soto was huge in the early stages of this ball game before the Mets offense blew it open. Great point. Fantastic. Fantastic. Is it? Was that Nemo's second hit? What was his first hit? I'm not remembering the first hit then, Ken. Huh. I gotta dig into my memory bank. Oh, did he sneak one up the middle? Past the second baseman, if I'm remembering correctly? Huh. That might have been his first hit, right? Yeah, I think that might have been it. Good fundies is what Keith likes to say. Absolutely. Siri, electric. That's what I'm saying. Like, David Stearns brings in these guys for a reason. And Mets fans have to understand that. I know it can be painfully, frustrating seeing Jose Siri come up to the plate 0 for 4 with the golden sombrero, 4 strikeouts. I get it. That's going to happen. But, like, games like today is why you bring him in. A game like the Houston game, right? In game 3 is why you bring him in because he is electric. He's great defensively. He does have gap to gap power, although the strikeout rate will always be high with Jose Siri based off of his selection. These are all the reasons why you at least bring him in to play on a platoon basis with Tyrone Taylor, who is also a great ball player himself. So, yeah, appreciate it. I appreciate all the love. I really do. The chat is popping. The support is appreciated. This is the place to be. Tell your friends, tell your family if they're Mets fans, come rock with us on this post-game show. We appreciate it. And by we, I mean Rob and I, because we definitely do. And I love reading everybody's comments. The vibes are just up after wins. And because the vibes are up, how about we do this? Spam those W's, chat. Spam those W's one more time for me on this post-game stream on March 31st. Spam those W's. It's a Mets victory, baby. Let's go. Ray spamming the W's. Cindy spamming the W's. Cope spamming the W's. Carlos spamming the W's. JB. Stan. Ken. Grateful for you too, George. I appreciate you and thank you for the support. Is it Stan's birthday? Stan, can we get confirmation that it is your birthday? I know it was Stanley's birthday as well. Oh, it's Stan Lee's birthday today. Okay, okay. Special happy birthday to you, Stanley. Rock, spamming the W's. George, spamming the W's. D, spamming the W's. Johnny, spamming the W's. I love it. Post game streams. I knew it was Stanley's birthday, but I also thought it was your birthday, Stan. But nonetheless, happy birthday. A great Mets win for Stanley, which is what he wanted and he said he wanted on the pregame stream. They came through for you, Stanley. But yeah, I mean, unconscious saying Winkler. I did see Winker on the bench. I believe he was next to Francisco Lindor. Stearns has a great track record with pitching depth, and we saw what happened with Winkler. I believe you're talking about Jesse Winker because I did see Jesse Winker on or in the dugout today in good spirits. We were wondering in the pregame, why he wasn't playing with the righty on the mound and Cal Quantrill. And by the way, Quantrill is, I know he got lit up towards the middle part of the game, but he was kind of keeping Mets hitters off balanced. I believe in what they said was a splitter or something like that. I didn't know that that was classified as a splitter, but apparently it was. I'll have to check his Baseball Savant page. A guy that I definitely kept track of last season, especially in the first half. But yeah, it was kind of peculiar when Mendoza made the decision to put in Marte over Winker in the DH spot. It ended up paying great dividends because that's what a great manager does. He proves all the naysayers wrong, like Carlos Mendoza did all of 2024, right? All that season in his first year managing. So shout out to Carlos Mendoza, our fearless leader, absolutely 100%. But yeah, I'm kind of curious what the status update on Jesse Winker is. Kind of curious. We don't know. I don't know yet. I haven't seen anything official. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to say in this stream. So hopefully everything's okay with Jesse Winker again. Lefty bench bat slash DH, right? Starting DH when the righty's on the mound, except for today and tonight. Alexander Canario. For those of y'all who were wondering what an update on Alexander Canario is, very talented outfielder who was traded from the Cubs to the Mets in spring training, was out of options. And with the Mets already being outfield heavy in the 26-man initial roster, they couldn't afford to roster him. And so they had to put him on waivers with him being out of options. He didn't clear waivers, or I guess he did, maybe didn't. I don't know if they let him clear waivers because they traded him before tonight's ball game to the Pittsburgh Pirates. So Alexander Canario is a Pittsburgh Pirate, and he was traded for good old cash considerations. Our good friend, longtime New York Met cash considerations is coming to Queens in exchange for Alexander Canario. Pittsburgh got a great one. It's a great move for them. I think that's a perfect situation for Canario too, trying to get his career on track and make a statement. I think that if there's any place, there's a couple ball clubs that could provide that environment for him. And he started off slow in spring training, but he really showed out as spring training was kind of concluding. But Pittsburgh seems like a good place for him. So, yeah, that's the update on Alexander Canario. And the other update that I wanted to give you all, it's not Mets related, but it's kind of a former Mets trade target related. Garrett Crochet and the Boston Red Sox have reached an extension agreement, 6 years, $170 million, $28.3 million a year. He's not 30 years old yet. I think he's, 27 years old. And he gets his bag. That's a steal for the Boston Red Sox, by the way. And they get their ace for the foreseeable future. So they gave up a lot to get him. Everyone knew that he wanted an extension. He was asking for one in Chicago. They knew that they were going to trade him. And the extension finally gets done. So that's some news around the league. Now that I have you all here, since we're on the post game, let's just take a look at some scores around the league, shall we? The Braves and Dodgers are kicking off tonight. It doesn't get any easier for the Atlanta Braves. The Jerks and Profar news is a huge blow to them. Suspended 80 games for performance-enhancing drugs. That was announced on the pregame show just as we were starting up the pregame show. And also, they put Reynaldo Lopez, their starter, on the IL. I'm not sure what kind of injury he has, but again, just nothing going right for the Atlanta Braves. Phillies improved to 3-1, beating the Colorado Rockies, getting to their bullpen by a score of 6-1. Nationals lose to the Toronto Blue Jays 5-2. They are 1-3 on the season. So, yeah, some interesting stuff happening around the league. The Brewers get smacked yet again. They start off 0-4. So, yeah, I love baseball season. I love baseball season. I love baseball season. Agreed, Darren. Braves have been notoriously slow starters, and they have also Won a World Series while doing so, 100%. Yeah, the Devers situation in Boston is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. I don't know what has to happen there, but that seems like a bad vibe going on over there between who the Red Sox are prioritizing at third base. Guy in a short-term deal versus the guy that they extended for numerous years and gave him a pretty large contract. So I don't know how they're going to figure that out because on paper that team is fantastic. It's fantastic. A little bit of a slow start. They'll figure it out, I'm sure, but yeah, it's a crazy situation. 41 watching, 30 likes. Hit the like and subscribe to the channel as Darren is saying. I appreciate it. Please subscribe. If you enjoy the conversations, if you enjoy these streams, I try to keep it interactive as I can while getting my points across. Please make sure to subscribe if you are new and hit the thumbs up. It helps the algorithm a lot. A lot. Diddy saying we love you, CP. I love the chat. I love all you subscribers as well. I definitely appreciate it. I appreciate it. But that's gonna about wrap it up. Again, if you want to look at this beautiful box score, hopefully we get many more of these with every single Met collecting a hit in this ball game. 6 innings pitched for David Peterson, a fantastic outing to start his season off. This is beautiful. This is exactly what you like to see. Everybody contributing. Brett Beatty, first home run of the season, or first hit of the season, excuse me. Pete Alonso, first home run of the season. Brandon Nimmo, same thing. Luis Torrens, same thing. Starling Marte, same thing. It was a hit party in South Beach. South Beach or just Miami? I don't know. But anywho, I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all. This is going to wrap it up for me. Mets take game 1, 10-4. It's always a great time on the channel. Tomorrow, Kodai Senga. Let's talk about this game for just a second. Don't have too much to get into. I don't want to get into the talking points that we're going to be talking about, presumably in the pregame stream tomorrow. So keep an eye out on that. Kodai Senga makes his first start against the Marlins in game 2, going against righty Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara is going to be a tough task. I believe they're saying on the broadcast he throws a lot of off-speed pitches now. So that's the game 2 matchup tomorrow. In the first day of April, April 1st. Very curious to see Kodai Senga on the mound. Very curious to see how the Mets approach Kodai Senga starts over the first couple months of the season. Because what Carlos Mendoza has been doing, the first 4 pitchers through is sticking to that sweet spot of, anywhere between 84, 85 to 89 pitches, which is what we saw from Clay Holmes. We saw it from Griffin Canning, Tyler McGill, and tonight with David Peterson. I'm curious if the game plan is any different for Kodai Senga. I'm extremely curious. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be monitoring. Of course, it definitely depends on the game situation, how efficient he is, whether he's rolling, whether he's struggling, whether it's a close ball game. Hopefully it's not. But again, the Mets lineup is going to have a tough task with Sandy Alcantara. And Sandy Alcantara is showcasing himself right now in the first half of the season, by the way. He made his first start against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I believe he gave up 2 earned runs, over 6 innings pitched, maybe 5. Anywho, he's going to get traded at this deadline. The Marlins are abysmal. They're abysmal. They want to get the most in return for Sandy Alcantara. Now, I know that this is a very rare occurrence in terms of trading star talent like Sandy in division, but I'm sure the Mets are going to be watching his start closely as well. Because when it gets to the trade deadline, and if the Mets are seriously inquiring about starting pitching, they're going to give a phone call to the Miami Marlins to see how feasible it would be to get Sandy Alcantara. But again, we're talking about many months away. But just keep that in the back of everybody's heads. while you're watching the game tomorrow. But we'll talk about it in the stream, in the pregame stream tomorrow. Planning to do a pregame. Hopefully, Rob can join me as well as a postgame. Again, please hit the notifications buttons on the channels. This is something that I can't stress enough, especially because like life happens, stuff happens, schedules change, even with the snap of the finger. So I usually try to get ahead of all my streams and posting them, but there will be times like mid-game where I can't make it. Case in point, Rob getting called into work tonight, and we won't do a stream that night, or at least I won't do the stream, and maybe Rob will cover for me. So hit the notifications buttons. That is the best way to get notified directly when I post a video or go live on my channel. But I appreciate everybody. Thank you for a great stream, a great show. Thank you to Cindy for saying LFGM always in a great show. Unconscious saying well done. I appreciate that. Dodgers are up 2-0 according to Ken. But yeah, appreciate it, George. Awesome chat. I love this chat. Y'all are the best. Positive energy, even when things aren't going well, is the key. Differences in opinions are okay, obviously, but always keep it respectful. Good night, everyone. Let's go Mets again. Please, if you haven't yet, hit those thumbs up buttons, subscribe to the channel. This has been the New York Mets post-game show with your boy CP. I'll see you all tomorrow for the pregame and the post-game. Let's go Mets. We'll see you all for game 2 in Miami. Peace.